All right, everybody, this is Macky, and we're back with another episode of the Hidden Threads podcast. What do you think about it, Jus?
I'm glad to be back.
Glad to be back.
Yes.
You haven't changed clothes since we started.
I know.
All right.
I'm smelly.
We'll go ahead and spill the beans here. We don't record every day. We record on Monday. It's basically like a 3.5 hour episode, and we break it into 4 pieces throughout the week.
I took my scally off.
You did take your scally off, but we break it into 4 pieces throughout the week, and occasionally I'll change shirts to make it look different. So when we're doing our clips on small clips, so the secret's out, Jus.
Yeah, I don't like change.
You don't like change. All right, so we got a great one today. We're going to talk about the rights of the accused.
And this is a lot about change.
Change. It was change back in the time when this all came down. The first one we're going to talk about, the big one. They like to put it on the movies, right? Miranda versus Arizona. Tell me about it, Jus. He's smarter on this than I am.
I don't know if I'm smarter.
Right.
So he got picked up, Miranda. This was a 1967 arrest. They wound up bringing the guy in. They interrogated him. He didn't know his rights, signed a confession, went to court with it. They found him guilty of assault and rape. They locked him up 20 to 30 years. Mm-hmm. Then they went through appeals. The appeals court, the appellate court, said, nope, it's good to go. Well, the Supreme Court later on came back and said, wait a second, he didn't know his rights. If he didn't know his rights, then he answered this when he shouldn't have.
Right.
Everybody has certain inalienable rights that they're entitled to.
Right.
Well, he wasn't afforded that opportunity. He didn't understand his rights. Mm-hmm. So later on, the conviction was overturned. But it transpires. This goes into like 4 different cases.
Right.
Of Miranda rights.
So specifically, Miranda, he wasn't saying anything at first, right?
No, wasn't saying anything.
But they held him. They had some other issues where they held him for a long time.
Right.
Almost a whole 24-hour period without any food and things like that.
You had hunger, you had sleep deprivation, the whole bit.
Right. So they could get, I've seen it where they turn around and get sued for kidnapping when they do that. You ever seen that?
No, but that's awesome.
I've seen it when it happens. But so they're saying that Miranda had his 4th and 5th Amendments, 4th and 5th Amendment rights against self-incrimination and 6th Amendment right to counsel violated. It took me a minute to spit that out, Jus.
It's okay.
But your 5th Amendment right, just to recap for everybody, is a right against self-incrimination. You can be quiet. You don't have to say anything. 6th Amendment right is the right to counsel. Okay? You have a right to a lawyer. Okay. Whenever we have people that we work a case for, a criminal case, we're on the accused side. All right, we're on the defense's side. First thing I ask them when I go do an interview, what did you say to the cops at the beginning?
Yeah.
We go back to the beginning of this thing and see what they said. How did that whole arrest, how did the interrogation, how did the whole thing go down? I talked to them about that because I want to see if there was any of their constitutional rights violated. One thing that blows my mind is you'll have cases where they ask for a lawyer and the police just pushed right on through and kept talking to them.
Yeah, that's why I have a lot of issues. I like good cops. Mm-hmm. I don't like bad cops, and I don't like uneducated cops. Just because you went through the academy doesn't mean you know anything.
Right.
You need to continue to brush up on your mind, your skill set, your knowledge.
So tell me this. Say you've arrested me for a crime. Let's say you think I assaulted somebody, and you got me. We're sitting in an interrogation room now. We're sitting in an interview room, right? Okay. And as soon as we sit down, I say I want a lawyer. Okay.
Okay.
But then I keep talking. What does that matter?
Well, it does matter because you've already asked for an attorney.
Okay. But what if you write down what I said or record it?
So it's called a spontaneous utterance, and it can be used against you.
Okay.
But if you ask for an attorney and just sit there and they start to pressure you, now they're starting to violate your rights.
Okay.
So that's why I tell anybody, if you're ever sitting in there, don't say anything except I want an attorney.
Mm-hmm. Right. So we got one where the girl immediately said, I need an attorney.
7 minutes, 30-something seconds into this
They talked about the weather and stuff for a little while, and then she said, they started getting to the hard questions. She said, I want a lawyer.
Yeah.
And then they kept asking her questions regarding to the crime.
So I read that part. I think it's coercion on the statement. So
and eventually she admitted she made up some story about it because they had her in there for how long?
Oh, I don't. It was a huge amount of time.
Right. excuse me, while I take a sip of coffee out of my Peanuts cup. But they had her in there for quite a while. I think it was up to 12 hours.
Yeah, it was somewhere around there, yeah.
And she asked for a lawyer 5 times, I believe, throughout the whole thing.
I know definitely within the first 10 minutes she asked for an attorney.
What you see on television is when they ask for an attorney, the cops stop.
Yeah.
Is that how it goes in real life?
No, it doesn't, but it's supposed to. Once they ask for an attorney, all questioning related to that crime that they're allegedly accused of or they allegedly committed, all talking stops at that point. They've asked for an attorney, the detective, the investigator, however you want to call them. They're supposed to shut their pie hole
until the lawyer shows up
and get out of there until the attorney shows up, period.
Right. You go put them in confinement and feed them. And
they can sit in a holding cell, get them something to eat.
You got to house them or whatever.
Yeah.
So we've got 2 like this. So we had this one, and we had the other one I mentioned in another podcast about the drive-by. And that guy asked for an attorney several times, but they would keep talking to him, then he would say something stupid.
Right.
He'd say, yeah, I was with Franco, and we did this thing. After they'd already asked for an attorney, but they kept talking. They kept asking him questions. Yeah, we'll get you an attorney, but I want to get to this first.
Yeah, see, that for me, they're violating his rights.
That's kind of what happened with this one we're talking about.
Right.
In Pennsylvania. She asked for an attorney, and they said, well, we want to talk about this now. And eventually they got out what they wanted to hear, right?
Yeah.
And it's going to turn out to be a false confession, I believe.
Fruit of the poisonous tree, maybe?
Yeah, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Brings me to another one, Terry versus Ohio. Tell me what you know about a Terry frisk.
So Terry, that's a detective that had prior knowledge of individuals that he believed were casing a jewelry store or they were going to case it and do a heist or whatever. Well, he stopped them, patted them down, took a pistol out, went to court, all this stuff. So here's the thing that I like about it. If you're an officer and you believe that you're stopping somebody involved in a crime, about to commit a crime, all that, and you pat them down just for officer safety to make sure they don't have weapons on them, I think it's a good thing. However, if you're one of those cops that pat somebody down and you feel something in their pocket and you can't identify it from plain feel,
from print or whatever,
then you're done at that point. But a lot of them like to breach that pocket.
That's like going into a door, right?
Yeah. You're violating their Fourth Amendments for illegal search and seizure. But if you can identify what that object is when you pat them down, you're good to go.
Knife, gun, or dope.
Don't feel a gun in there and say, oh, what is that? If you can't identify it, that's just another way that police will try and find out what's in your pocket. Oh, that's my gun. When they really don't know. Yeah. So it's a good thing. It's a bad thing.
So the Terry frisk, an officer without probable cause can frisk you for the safety of them and the surrounding community.
Reasonable suspicion, but they have to be able to articulate that.
And if you feel, and this is outside the clothes type frisk, if you feel a weapon, knife, you name it, whatever it is, and you can pull it out. All right. Now, if that individual later on turns out to be a felon and they have that gun, you can charge them with possession of a firearm.
Correct.
Or if they have jewelry, which is the case of Terry, that was stolen from a jewelry store just up the road, then, yeah, you can charge them with that crime.
Right.
Now, Terry, that case, the officer went into his pockets.
Yes.
It's a jacket pocket, I believe.
Yep.
If I remember correctly.
Pull out a revolver.
You know what, Jus? A good podcast. Those would probably read ahead on these before. I've actually been tested on Terry and Miranda and all that. But
you get away from it. It's hard.
We don't deal with a lot on our end, except for reviewing cases. We're not arresting people. We're not dealing with crime at the street level like that.
So. We're just reporting facts of the case. That's it.
That's all we do. And let me ask you this on the Terry part. You stopped me for speeding. Okay. Jus has been a street cop. I never was a street cop. I was a military police officer, which is different a little bit.
Right.
Has its challenges. Now, if you're a garrison military police officer, you do deal with speeding and all that. I never was that guy. I was always force protection. But if you stop me, you do me and you again, all right? You stop me, pull me over for speeding. Now, you'd heard a few days earlier that I might be dealing crystal meth, all right? Can you go anything beyond getting my driver's license, insurance, and giving me a ticket?
No.
Okay.
Not at all.
What if you peek in the back and see some paraphernalia?
If it's in plain sight, that's a little different.
Called the plain view doctrine, right?
Correct. But what if I can try and work it. if I hear you're dealing dope from one person, so I didn't deal with snitches very well because for me, a snitch, I don't care where you're at. A snitch is trying to get you to look elsewhere instead of looking at them so they can continue with their dirt.
Right. So what if a snitch told you that the drugs are in my trunk? Now you just pull me over for speeding. Can you have me get out and open my trunk?
No.
What if you said to me, hey, I want to look in your trunk, and I get out and open it for you?
That's different. You got out, you opened it.
We're just buddies talking, right?
Correct.
All right.
However, a lot of times people don't understand. If the cops ask you to search, you could say, no, you're not searching my vehicle, whether there's anything in there or not. Or you can limit their scope of search. You can say, I'll tell you what, you can search under the door of my gas port, and that's it.
There's nothing ever in there.
Yeah, that's just if you want to irritate them, or I've done it when the cop comes up. He's a bully with a badge. I've played along, but I aggravated the daylights out of him just to watch him lose his temper.
Right. A lot of these Supreme Court cases are what that's for. Bully with badges is what it starts with. So
that's exactly what it's for.
And we still have bullies with badges now. And
we do.
Walking around. We're dealing with some of those cases ourselves.
We are.
Now, what if you pull me over? You have a suspicion I'm a drug dealer, but I was only speeding. And you say, hey, I want to look in your trunk. And I say, no.
There's nothing I can do about that.
You give me my ticket and go on your day, right?
Yeah, that's it.
You can follow me as long as I'm on a public road.
I'll try and talk you into letting me look in the trunk. Be like, what are you scared of? If you ain't got nothing in there, you should let me look. You got any thermonuclear devices in there?
I would just be quiet. If I was a drug dealer, I'd be like,
I
wouldn't start popping off.
Here's my driver's license, registration proof.
I'm not talking to you anymore. You don't have to say anything to them.
You don't have to speak at all.
As long as you got your ID, you're good to go, right?
Yep.
Now, I see a lot on video where cops they go up and say there's a fight and they get called to let's just say amusement park, the one I was watching. All right.
Okay.
And they go up to the guy and everybody's saying, hey, this is the guy that started it. And the cops start talking to him. And he says, I want to see your ID. And the guy says, no. What's the legalities there?
Well, if you have positive identification that he was involved in a fight and he doesn't want to provide his identification, then he's impeding a police investigation.
So you can arrest him and take him in to ID who he is, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And he'll be booked in as a John Doe.
John Doe, and then
we'll sort it out from there. You can beat the rap. You can't beat that ride, though.
Right. You can beat the rap, but you can't beat the ride.
That's right.
I like it, Juice.
Yeah.
I like that.
I mean, honestly, if you don't want to participate to clear your name, you'll just participate later to clear your name.
Right. Gotcha. All right. All right. So we're going to take a break. These are interesting. We could talk about these for days.
Oh, yeah. We can get deep into these.
Lawyers go to school for 3 years just dealing with the Supreme Court and the Constitution. Mainly these three we're talking about today.
They do.
But, all right, we're going to take a break. We'll be back, and we're going to talk about Brady and the Fourth Amendment.
Oh.
How about those?
Riveting.
Right. We'll be back in a second. All right. Hey everybody, Macky here. I just want to get into what we actually do here at Macky Outlaw Private Investigators. So we conduct domestic investigations, which include your adultery and custody cases. You may have a cheating spouse that you're wanting to find out, or you may have shared custody and you're wanting to find out what the other parents are doing, maybe prove that they're not good parents for a custody modification. Also, what we do is criminal defense investigations. That's where people get in trouble and they need help proving their innocence. It could be either pre-conviction or post-conviction. So if you know people in those situations, just give us a ring. Also, we work missing person cases. That's where we track down people that are missing. It can be children, teenagers, all the way to senior adults. So if you have a case like that, how we work those cases is we use surveillance. We locate and find witnesses and interview them. Also conduct digital forensics where we extract deleted data and locate those digital artifacts to help your case. If you need those types of investigations done, you can always click the link and contact us. You can call us directly at 866-910-7499. That's 866-910-7499. Or visit us on the web at mackyoutlaw.com. Thank y'all. Okay, we're back, and Juice is studying up on his notes over there.
Yes, I was.
Which one were you reading?
Brady
violation. What do you know about Brady?
Hey, let's Well, we're working cases now that there's an issue with discovery.
It seems like there always is.
Yeah.
It seems like it's a thing where we're just going to say, hey, the Supreme Court in 1963 didn't know what they were talking about. We're just going to plow right through that.
Yeah, I think the 60s was a very tumultuous time.
That's when
for the Supreme Court.
They were busy.
Yeah.
That's when Miranda came out, right?
Yep.
And Terry.
And Terry. Oh,
and
there's
several
a
others.
lot of them there.
So Brady versus Maryland was a 1963 Supreme Court case that established that prosecutors must share evidence with defendants that could indicate the defendant's innocence. This ruling is a cornerstone of criminal procedure in the United States. So why don't we follow it?
Well, you got to get those convictions. You got to keep your numbers up if you're a state attorney or, politicians. Exactly what they are.
Politician. So what this did was it established that prosecutors must disclose evidence that could reduce the defendant's punishment or negate their guilt. So what happens is you go in and you commit a crime. Let's just say Jus committed a crime. Say he did it. Say he shot somebody robbing a bank. All right, big one. Let's go all out if we're going to go all out, Jus.
Okay.
And Jus is got his lawyer, his defense attorney, and then you got the prosecution that's trying to get him put in prison. Okay, or even capital crime, maybe death sentence. And they goes all the way through. He gets convicted, but there was somebody that came forward, made a statement to the prosecution, to the police, that said it wasn't him, it was somebody else, and they never brought that up during the trial. Is that a Brady violation?
It is if they knew about it and they suppressed it.
They suppressed it, right? They just kept it in their desk.
Yep,
that's what we're talking about here. We got a case going on now where the other side just won't give any material over. What do you think of that?
I think it's hysterical.
We had we got one on death row now with Everett, where there was a bunch of evidence, people saying that he wasn't there, and it was never brought up. The jury never got a chance to see it. That's basically what they're saying here. If we're going to go to trial, the jury gets a chance to see everything. We got to lay it all out on the table, right?
Yeah, and that's the way it should be.
We're going to lay it out.
How do you make an informed decision if you don't have all the information?
That's correct. And we ran across it with a guy that's fighting for his life on death row. We've got it going on in an active case where the other side refuses just to turn over information, which in that case, I think they're trying to avoid embarrassment.
And I do know they have the information, and they do know they didn't turn it over.
Do you think they know we're investigating that?
Yeah. Oh, yes. They know.
Have you talked to them at all?
There's some people I know down at the courthouse.
What are they saying?
They're not happy with us.
Really?
Yeah.
Who's that?
Clerks
and stuff?
There are certain politicians down there that aren't happy with us.
Do you know her personally? I'm not. Let's not say her name. I like her, but you're just hearing rumors of what she's saying and all that.
Yeah.
Oh, Outlaw and his team's muddying waters down there.
No, we're not muddying the waters. We're just trying to find the truth, the facts of the case. And if the facts are there, you can't make this stuff up. This is like one of those, make it a fit for TV movie.
Right. Yeah, I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
But it is. And the Brady violations do happen all the time. And we find it. And what gets me is a lot of times people have I'm going to say it right on this one, public defender. Jus calls them public pretenders.
Correct.
When you get a public defender, just know that they work for the DA, the opposing side. That's their boss.
It is. They were just assigned the case.
Right. In some larger cities, they have an actual public defender office that the DA manages.
They do. But even though it's a pool of attorneys, they're still public pretenders. They just get assigned stuff. You're in the pool, your name comes up, you get that case.
And they're getting paid a third of what they normally get paid.
Correct.
And they do the bare minimum. So they make sure
they do enough to dot their I's and cross their T's to make sure they get their paycheck.
Right. And it's not a huge paycheck.
No.
I've done public work where I was hired by a public defender, and my normal rate of getting paid is $200 an hour. That's our company rate, right? And the state only pays $60 an hour. That's for investigators. They only pay the lawyer about $110 an hour.
Right.
Where if they were doing this in real life, they'd be above $400 an hour.
Yeah.
So
the F. Lee Baileys and Johnny Cochrans and stuff.
F. Lee Bailey.
Yeah.
But so That's what you're getting when you're getting a public defender, and they're not going to bring up a lot of stuff. They're going to do the bare minimum, file a few motions here and there to say that they did their due diligence and be done with it.
Yep. That way you can't come back and sue them later because they didn't do their job.
Right. They hit the minimum standard. Now let's talk about the Fourth Amendment for a little bit. That goes back to the Terry frisk earlier.
It does.
All right. Fourth Amendment of the United States Constitution protects people from unreasonable searches and seizures by the government. It was ratified in 1971. It's part of the Bill of Rights, Juice.
It is.
All right. So let's say that you think I am a criminal, think I was a participant in a crime, and you're the police, and you come to my house and you just bust down the door and start searching without a warrant.
Mm-hmm.
Is that legal?
Not even close.
Not even close. It'd be fun.
It would, but it's not even close.
Now, what if a judge? What if you write up a statement to the judge saying, "Hey, this is why we think they're involved in this crime."
Right. You have to articulate why you want that warrant.
It's basically a statement you make to the judge.
Right.
It can be through email. It can be handwritten.
Right.
It can be typed. There's a variety of ways to do it. And the judge agrees they will issue a warrant for you to go search the whole house, right? He could say the whole house.
Yeah, he could.
They can be specific as well. They can say just this computer or just this closet.
Right.
If they have that kind of information. So big time today is the child porn stuff.
Right.
They usually come in and say, just grab the computing devices, your computers and your tablets and your phones, and they take them with them and do investigations. Now, what if you're in there and you're doing a search on a specific, say you're looking for a weapon in a specific closet. You just happen to see, you walking through and you glance over and you see a meth lab in one of the bedrooms.
Oh, busted.
Is that a plain view doctrine?
That's plain view.
So we can start a whole nother case with the meth, right?
Absolutely.
And that's usually good for the police because they were trying to get you on one crime, and now they can grab you. They have an obvious crime with evidence right in front of them. They can take you and hold you and start it and then try to get you for the bigger crime while they're holding you for the smaller crime. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
The feds are the masters of overcharging. They'll charge you with 62 things and investigate each 62 crime individually with individual agents and drag these things on forever.
Well, all cops do what they call stacking.
Yeah.
So if I can get you on 7, 8, 10, 12 charges, one of them's going to stick.
Right.
Hopefully.
Right.
Yeah.
Then maybe get you to plea on one or whatever.
Right.
So, but stacking. I knew that word. I just couldn't think of it, Juice.
Yeah.
You think a good host, I'll say it again. You think a good host would read ahead.
No, that's okay.
All right. How much time we got, Juice?
I don't know.
We got about 4 minutes to go. So the Fourth Amendment, some examples of searches and seizures include stop and frisk, the old Terry frisk. All right.
I got a story for that.
Tell it right now.
Oh, so I moved back down to Florida. I took my daughter when she was little to a state fair.
Mm-hmm.
She won a bunch of stuffed animals. I took them out to the car, put them in the car, and I come back in. There's a Brevard County Sheriff's deputy standing there in his spandex overalls.
Was he a bike cop or something?
Yeah, no, he was just fat. And
spandex overalls.
Yeah, his overalls were spandex at that point.
He had overalls on?
He stopped me.
Okay.
As I'm trying to walk through, stopped me and started patting me down. I'm like, what do you think you're doing? And I backed away from him. Mm-hmm. And he's reaching for his taser and everything. He says, well, I got to check you out. I said, why? Mm-hmm. He said, because you matched a description of somebody that shouldn't be here. I said, who's that? Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know his name, but you look like the guy we're looking for. I said, what'd he do? He's a pedophile. I said, well, you got the wrong guy. Have a nice day. And I went to walk. He grabbed me up, and then 3 other deputies came over. Luckily, one of the deputies knew me and told him, you just grabbed the wrong guy. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, he patted me down and everything right there.
Gave you a little Terry frisk.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You look like a criminal to me.
I know.
Searches incident to arrest. That's you get a warrant, go do a search.
Yep.
Okay. Vehicular searches. We talked about that a little bit.
Yep.
We got pulled over once, me and my daughter, my oldest daughter, and they came up and looked in the window and said, oh, you're good, go. They thought we were somebody. We matched a car.
Right.
But they just looked at my face and said, oh, you're good. It was the county, Jackson County. Vessel searches, same with searches. What is that, Juice?
That's where you allow them to search your stuff.
Mm-hmm. It
I
applies.
advise people not to do that.
I don't want anybody looking at my stuff, much
No.
less the police. I don't have anything illegal,
I don't have anything illegal, but I don't want you rooting through my stuff.
but they could put stuff in there, right?
They can.
If they don't like you. Border searches. What is that?
That's border searches.
Like down at the border, right?
Yeah, it depends.
Okay. If you're coming across illegally and they're investigating you for a crime, could they search you?
Sure they can. They're feds.
What if we went down to Mexico on vacation, or just a day trip? I mean, you went down to do some shopping, and we come across Arizona there at Yuma. Can they search me?
No.
Why not? They do.
Yeah, they do. They do a cursory search of the vehicle. They're feds. They're at the border. Same thing as if you come back in from Canada.
So we do it down there. We'd go to Yuma training a lot. We'd go across,
Yeah, oh yeah.
shopping, goofing off across in Mexico, and come back for the day. And they would do a Terry frisk,
Oh,
ask you a
yeah.
bunch of questions.
Yep.
We was walking, right? And we'd park there and then walk across. And so they're towing the line there, but we were nice about it. We just said,
they're close. They're right on that razor's edge.
but we had nothing to hide.
Yeah.
We was nice about it. Yeah, sure, you can check me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's kind of what they're relying on, I believe.
Here in Podunk, Alabama, I don't care what cop stops me. Can I search your vehicle? No.
Here's the big one, Juice. Drug testing.
Okay.
All right. I'll take a drug test today. I don't care.
I'll take one every day.
But what if I hired somebody and I said, hey, this is depending on a drug test. And then I test them. They popped hot on methamphetamine. And I didn't hire them. But I turned that over to the cops and said, look, hey, here's somebody that's on meth. Can the cops use it?
No.
They'd have to do their own drug test, right?
Correct.
Because they don't know what system I used.
Correct.
And all those things. Okay. That's been brought up before, by the way.
Yeah,
in
no.
court. But, all right, there's a little bit on the Fourth Amendment, a little bit on Brady. This is a good one people could comment on.
Yeah.
Now, I've asked a bunch of lawyers to come be on the podcast.
Let me guess. None of them will do it.
One of them said they would.
Where are they at?
Charlotte Christian?
Well, come on.
She's not far. She lives up the road. So we got to get her on here. I know they're busy, but we got to get some time for them to come on.
She has to make time for Macky Outlaw Private Investigator.
That's right, dude.
I don't know what she's thinking.
Right. Okay. All right. That's all we got for this one. We'll be back with another episode soon.